think it's good. Yeah, it's good to go. That makes me nervous. So the other one. Hello, and welcome to Tutorial Tuesday. My name is Kim. I teach upholstery and furniture restoration, and today we're going to learn how to recover this Eames Chair Replica with leather. And the tricky part about it is that we have to cut it with this very expensive leather. So I'm going to walk you through that so that you don't have to do it alone. And you can ask questions along the way, and I can see them up here on the screen, so I'll try to answer them if I can. If I can't answer them live on camera, then I'll circle back and answer them to you personally if you're not so good. Okay, so last week we finished refinishing the wood on the Eames Chair Replica, and we also added all the foam and batting. And this week we have the leather here and we're ready to add. Now, leather is pretty expensive. This particular leather was about $25 a square foot, and it's got 58 square feet on it. So this is what we're working with to cover these pieces today. And these are the pieces that I have to cover. This is the entire upholstered part of the chair. We have the seat, the ottoman, the rest, and the lumbar support. These all have to get cut out of this. Oh, and these armrests. Now, because leather is super duper expensive, we want to think before we cut into it or before we make any permanent marks on it that we can't undo. Luckily, these just need a rectangular fabric to wrap and staple. So that makes the cutting process super easy. We don't have to use any like excess math or geometry to do it. We're just doing rectangles. So I did measure and cover those already, and I'm going to kind of show you how we do it. For each piece, and you'll want to write it down as you go, you're going to measure the widest width by the tallest height or longest length. And then you're going to add 4 additional inches to each of those measurements to give you enough material to pull your pins. So in this particular part of the seat, I'm going to hold the ruler right where the staples are going to go in. I'm going to walk it across the surface because it does go like this. So I want to make sure that I'm covering all of that area. Walk it to the other side, and then I'm going to add 4 inches. So because I have a little bit more experience and this leather is a little stretchy, we've actually taken it down to adding 3 inches to make sure that we can fit everything. And then you're going to want to mark or measure it from top to bottom on this side and give yourself a few inches too. And the reason why you want to give yourself a few inches is because that material is important in being able to stretch it across the surface of your substrate or whatever it is you're trying to upholster. If you only cut just enough, you're not going to have enough pull. It's either going to look way too tight because you're trying to force it and make it work, or you're going to end up cutting another piece of material. And in this instance, this material is $25 a square foot, so it's very expensive to replace. So you want to think smart before you actually cut in or mark your material. So what we did was we cut patterns out of this, we call it butcher block paper, before we cut it out of the leather. So we can sort of place it on the leather and make sure that we can fit every panel on it. But before we do that, I want to kind of go over some of the things you should think about when you're placing the patterns. So I'm going to just do this real quick. You with the camera. Okay. So I have a very big surface that I can spread out on. You're going to want to spread out on as large a surface as you can because you're going to want to see as much of the material as possible. Even this 60-inch by 90-inch tabletop is too small. We've got a lot of stuff hanging off the edges here, but this is kind of ideal for what it is that we're doing. So I thread it all out, and now I just want to investigate the condition of the leather all the way around. This is, I think it was called classic leather. and the leather dealer let me know that I would probably, in this particular type of leather, because the bulls are overweight, they have a lot of cellulite down towards the bottom. So the close edges of this leather have some lengthening in there. And it's not consistent with everything all around. So you want to be mindful of those areas, whether or not they're going to be usable for what it is you want to do. Luckily, mine are out towards the outer rough edges. And one thing that you're going to notice right away is that leather is cat. It does not come off a roll like a fabric. It was cut off of a living thing. And this is the areas that you can see that come off of it. There's the leg area. You know what size I'm looking at, but sometimes you can tell sort of like the, and sometimes you'll see a hole in the leather, and that's where the tail used to be. So these are the areas that you're looking for to see like which parts are going to be the usable parts of the leather. We have very organic edges on the outside. We've got a lot more cellulite happening. This edge. And some down here. Some that can be stretched out, some that I even have a crease down here at this side that is noticeable. Let me see. So you can see it. On the leather, even the sheen has been removed off of that crease. So this is an unusual. So there are several bits that I have to cut out of it. And that is the head, the lumbar support, feet, and the ottoman. We also have to cut out enough welt to go around all of these pieces as continuously as possible. So I'm looking for big areas, these big rectangles of fabric, but I also need some long areas where I can fit some strips of welt. So we're going to play around a little bit with the shapes to see what fits where. And we have a little bit of overhang on the table, so I kind of rest my paper there. See what happens. The first thing I looked at when we fit this out the first time is what is the longest piece that I can get that I can fit. And this piece goes from this end all the way down. If I measure it down here, but that's going to put sort of everything on this side of it. All of my, like it puts everything on this side. And all my pieces. That's not going to be an option for that because the stuff just won't fit the way. So then, my next natural thing is to just put these down and see how I can arrange it to fit. So here I'm going to put all the way to as far edge as I can. And I don't want to cut off any of the edges because I have like only just 3 inches of extra material in it. So this comes all the way up to the edge there. Then I'm going to try to fit this, these short pieces down. I'm going to get that out, big piece there. And that means it goes down here. I'm not going to cut into that cellulite. Even if I did it this way, if that should work out. And I have a lot of extra material over here that doesn't make a piece that big. I'm thinking of these armrests, just get the top of them covered good leather and a very thin area on the side, I really think that those can come out of these like weird chunks that come on the side. And I've already tested that will actually fit in there. So I can reserve those little smaller parts for that, which means this piece is just kind of like way too big. I feel like I'm wasting material. So I'm gonna turn it in, see if it can fit in. This one will come down way further on the side. And that's how far it goes that way. We have more. Get a little over here. Now we have this wide area that goes all the way top to the bottom that I think make it perfect for getting my welt. What I do now is that I need 475 inches in order to cover all the. So I need to know how much material and if it can yield 475. So I need to measure really from the shortest end because that's going to give me my shortest piece of welt. I'm going to measure the width first. The total width here is we've got about 10 inches. And then the total length from the shortest piece on each side is about 70 inches. So I got 10 inches wide. Let me flip it. So 10 inches wide, 70 inches long. I need to know how many strips of welt can I get out of that area. In the bare minimum, I need these to be 1.5 inches wide when I cut them. So if I have 10 inches and I divide by 1.5, that's going to give me like just over 6 strips down here. And each strip is going to be 70 inches long. So I'm going to multiply that number by 70. And that's going to give me 466 inches of welt, which is not enough. It's 10 inches shy. So we need to figure something else out. And I wonder if we can fit these a little longer. Might give us more width. Well, actually, this can go. Let's see if we can turn this aside. This is cutting into about 3 inches. And both of these are 30. If we can get them in for F, we're going to start at about the same spot. I think that's gonna work out. From here, pull down about as far as we can. You can put that up. Pull up as far as it goes, so we don't have to enter the cellular. And then I wanted to get, I need a side of an area. So that one is like this. And just enough material over here to the edge. This is coming down even a little further than 2. Looking good. So now we've created a much wider gap. Now we've got about 16 inches that we're looking at. Let's make sure that the shortest point is still the same. 71, 70, about 70. So 16 inches wide divided by 1.5 is going to give us 10 and a half strips roughly. And we're going to multiply that by 70 inches, which is going to give us 746 inches of wow, which is way more than we need. We need 475. And we're going to divide that by 70 inches, and that tells us we only need just over 6.5 inches wide of well. So we're going to or 6.5 strips. So we're going to do 7 strips total, and that should give us a room. Before we cut the weld strips though, I want to trace and cut these patterns so that we can have this to work with after we cut everything out. So now that we have everything in place, I can just trace it with some chalk and then come back through and cut it with some scissors. So I'm going to check under here, see how far down. We're not that far into it at all. We'll all stretch to the side. Okay. So we're going to start off by tracing this. And I'm not going to I'm just going to cut this out. I don't want to waste any material that potentially go to another part of the chair. So we're going to cut out. We're just going to kind of move the height around on the table to get everything cut properly. But we'll trace it. Looking good. You might want to put weights on your paper if it's not ready. Just heavy aspects in general. This is good. Okay. And this fabric or this material, leather, is kind of stretchy too. So we're gonna have there's more than 3 inches to work with because of this strip. First one, trace. Now we can shift this whole height down so that the other half is fully on the table. After the well?
Yes.
You'll be putting the ply, which you'll cut that into 3 different sizes.
Yeah.
One for each wing and one for the back.
Okay.
And then you're going to staple that directly underneath the well where the metal strip goes tight into the well. Now this should take a chunk, like a 1/2 inch chunk back right here. And I think you can stretch it. We got these 2 pieces traced out. Now we can cut them off. On speed. I've got a nice sharp pair of fabric scissors. Well, someone says the locals cut out your minute. Must have died. Is the other one plugged in? I think they can hear you, but you can't. If you can still hear me, let me know in comments. The camera should be picking up. Take the microphone. Chalk is the best thing to mark this with. It's not permanent. It's not too late to go back and wash it off if it didn't work out. So I highly recommend chalk. Thank you. Oh, goodness. It's springtime here in Michigan. Okay. About 2 pieces of flour. Then we're going to bring the other side on the table.
It's bad morning.
Oh, it is.
I don't know where it's.
Try to be very illustrative in the new book. Now hold on to the chunks for now. Stepping aside, you can mark that if you don't know how much pieces are kind of similar in size. Okay, let's get the rest of the stuff on the table. To where I can reach it. And this time I wanted to go far over to this edge as it can possibly go. So that I have more material in the middle for what I want. Hopefully this is working now. Okay. Is it working? Yeah, your phone. I'm going to say which test, please. Test.
It's not picking up from that.
Oh, it's not picking anything up from this?
Not from that. It's not through it.
My voice isn't working? Oh, I just heard my voice. Yeah. All we could do is keep it. Sorry if you can't hear. I'm not sure. we're gonna do the well, then we'll do the arms. That's going to leave us with 2 chunks here. This chunk has a brand on it. But it's branded, so that chunk won't be able to be used for anything. You also want to look out for other imperfections. There was a cut on the edge up on one of those corners. But all of them is different. It's all dyed, a different dye. So make sure you order exactly as much as you need, or a little more when you go. If you order it, it's not going to be exact. It'll be close. Let's done. Now we can focus on the well. Push that away. So now we've got the longest continuous strip on the top of the table. So we can work with that. We're going to do 7 1.5-inch strip. This is actually 1.5 inches wide. So, but it's 60 inches long. So look at that. Too far. Okay. So there's a little staggering here. So we're going to find our edge. So look like that. Because you can have a little bit of extra on there, but you can't have that. So the first side we're going to establish just like this. Remember we need 7 of these. This is going to be for a while. This one's going to be right underneath it. Yeah. 3. Because typically, the next thing we do is trace and cut is the patterns for the arm. Yeah. This is the fabric that we have. I'm gonna let Crosby cut these strips, get them ready to sew. I'm going to cut turns. Yes. Yeah. Well, he looked at it. Probably something that I don't think think about everything. Okay, so now I've got the armrest, the side tables. We've got a lot of excess material in this armrest, so I want to see what we have to work with. I cover everything on that, but not cover one of them because this shape is exactly the shape that we want for the top part of our armrest. It's essentially just to be a box cushion. We'll cut the panel for the top half, and then we're going to cut the parts that go on the sides. And if we're going to do that, I first figure out this looks good here. I'm going to use seam puck to trace around that pen for that, and I'm going to do that on the back of the letter because I'm no dumb dumb. So I don't mess up the front with ink. So I'm going to grab a pen. Okay, so this pen. So this really cool tool that I have is called Seam Puck. And this, if you've ever used a bobbin to create a seam allowance on the outer edge of something, that's exactly what a seam puck is. But you can do it at a 1/4 inch, you can do it at a 1/2 inch, you can do it 3/4 inch. There's a lot of different options. Essentially what you do is you take it out to the measurement that you need it, I just took out to the half inch because I need a half inch seam allowance around this. And I'm just going to use that with my pen and trace around the edge, and that is going to give me the exact pattern top that I need. Now this also has to pin it on the corner, flip to the other side. You just gotta be very careful not to move it when it's moving. Now both arms are the same. We can cut this one out, flip it face to face with the other fabric, trace it on the other fabric, and then we'll have two armrest tops. So just cut out the shade. And then we use this shape to make the other one. Maybe that enough. Here, check in for blemishes. Now this is just a little bit too small, so we're not going to use that one. And then bring these pieces over. And I want to use like the smaller pieces I can, just in case I need extra materials from somewhere. This is got a lot of sound. This area looks like the smallest possible solutions that I can use. So let's put the back of the fabric to the back of the fabric because we want this to be a mirror image. And just trace that right onto the top. Then we gotta make a pattern for the side. Then we're gonna be ready to sew everything. Start flying to the chair. So what we'll do first is sew this bit, then we'll sew all the round. Then we'll take everything back to the chair and start wrapping it together. This time you want to put it. So we'll flip that over so we cut this out. Perfect. More Cheyenne. All right, guys, I'll be right back. Yeah. And this looks good.
Okay.
Next, I'd like you to do this bit too down here.
Oh, I have to do welting along this side too.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Not on the back, but just up here.
Okay.
And then you're gonna push these all almost closed, but not all the way closed.
Okay.
You're about that.
Oh, shoot.
It's not.
Yeah.
Anything. Almost closed, but not all the way. And then you're gonna start putting batting.
Got it. Okay.
The batting is gonna go down to here. Like you'll trim it into the edge. So like I take, like make it a rectangle with a very deep. Trim it right up to the wood. Trim it right up to the top of the wood.
Okay.
You don't want the batting to go down.
I don't want it to be.
You don't want it to be top down here. You want it to stop right at the top there. So I take my scissors.
Oh, sorry. I started cleaning up today. I think it goes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, and the problem is I can't come back tomorrow. I can come back on Thursday. Okay, cool. But I need to bring this stuff with me, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we can store it here. It's just half today.
I'm wondering if that like might be worth it, just 'cause like yeah, I can do that. I will. Where should I bring it to them?
Oh, you can just
Leave it here.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we'll put it in.
All right, and then to settle up for that, should I pay now or should
You can
I?
just wrap it up when you're done.
Okay, cool. All right.
We'll hold that chair around.
All right. Sweet. So I can leave all my stuff just.
Yeah, just put it in the chair. Just put everything in the chair. Okay, the next bit that we have to make a pattern for is actually around this edge. When I've seen it before, they just use a long rectangular pattern. But what happens is when that rectangle bends around these corners, it makes wrinkles and then it has a big edge. So we are going to problem solve how to make a pattern for that using the same step. Sharon, this is yours. Is this yours?
Yeah.
This is all extra leather, but no, this is the only extra leather left of all of that. That's theory. Essentially, I need to trace the edges of this for a passing. I can staple this around the edge everywhere and trace it onto the actual paper. But I want to staple it to the side. Yeah.
I should take this home.
Yeah. And just need the top. Let me see anything else.
I can just unstitch the top.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
The rest of the stuff you could throw away.
Okay, even the foam on. I want to do.
Yeah, we can replace the foam.
Okay.
We'll hold on to the foam.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we'll be able to do it with just.
I just want it to be more supportive.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so you don't need to hold on. Just the top. We'll cut it.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna start. I'm gonna need 2 of these to fit. And this is arguably too tall too. You probably won't. And then I just need to put this around all of the wood edges. And that's it's gonna make sense until I start doing it here. So I really need to stick with it. So I'm just gonna start stapling it to the sides. Using a temporary staple so get that out here. And I'm bringing it up around here so that there's a little bit extra on the top and a little bit extra on the bottom. So that I can make a pattern. Some of that down. And you can make sure that you can go all the way down and put it right there. And put a couple of staples on this side. Leave it over here. We need to build up the shape all the way around the other side. Yeah, you can. Yeah. later. Overlap here. This looks amazing. A little bit extra, not a bit extra actually. Yeah. So now we're gonna do a bunch of marking. First, I need to know where these are gonna meet because we're gonna cut them where they meet. We're just gonna add our seam allowance to all of this. So I'm just drawing a line for where they meet. So then that means, it's gonna make a snip because I can't mark the lower of the top. Okay. So next, I need to trace along the top. Can you give me an overhead cross? No, the other thingy. Can you zoom it out? Okay. So now we're gonna just trace around the top where the foam, the top of the foam area, leaving our pen just flat on top of it. All the way around and all the sides. We're gonna do the same thing at the bottom. And read something. Something like this. Okay, so that's the top half. I'm gonna flip it over. We do the same to the bottom. You can physically see how I have it split. Trim it over. So I'm gonna trim it back. Little long. Now I'm gonna trace the bottom. We are gonna make it longer than we need because it has to be able to wrap and staple, but I need the general shape. And what we're doing here. Now I'm gonna cut them so that they have seams, like their seams are right here on the end. And before I go too far, I want to mark bottom. Yeah, on these sides, and then I'm going to cut another seam back here where they meet. Now we can take all the staples off. The right hand side. And then we can see the shape that those make, which could not complete all the way around on this side. So this one, I can see the round shape it needs to go around the corner. And just cut them top to bottom. And then, sorry, I don't make it much sense. But it does when it connects, so I just have to make sure. Because the line didn't complete here. So when those come around, and meet, they just gotta be longer at the bottom. You can see the shapes that they're gonna make around the outside edges. But they have to be longer at the bottom. We're gonna work on this a little bit later. We have a lot we can do before we make any cuttings or something like that. Yeah, right? So the other option is to cut one really long piece of leather to wrap around there, where it needs
Usually
to
they
get
have that
full.
curve shape at all.
We want to make that curve shape, but I'm not confident in what I just did there. So I'm going to do it again, but I'm going to move on from now until we get everything. So we have the arm tops. We've got all the welting that could get sewn together, and then the pieces we're going to wrap and staple here. So the next step, we're going to go to the sewing machine, start sewing our welt together, and then we're going to come back, reupholster the seat, or at least one piece of it, put some welt on it so you guys can see how that goes down, and then we're going to revisit. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then just have it stay
Yeah.
exact pattern.
Yeah, it's 1918.
Yeah.
Or 19, it's like.
Yeah. So I think we could just take the remaining.
Here's, turn this around. Yeah. Yeah. You want to go back. So one of the things we can do now that we're here is sew welt all together, but also we need to sew welt to the tops of these arm tops. So that's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get this rethread with some black thread. I just do that by cutting this top bit. Get the black thread up there. Okay, let's. And then I'm just going to tie the old string to the new string, pull that through. And this has got a gray thread at the bottom. I think that'll work for now. So I just pulled that new thread through so I don't have to thread the machine. Just went through all the threading mechanisms already. This machine needs to be plugged in unless it's the right instrument. So I use a Conso 206 RB-2 for the most part. We've got a ton of sewing machines here in the studio though that you can use. We've got Rexes, we've got Singers, we've got Jukis. We've got just about every type of sewing machine that exists. Okay, we're in good shape here. So I have a welting foot on my machine already. And what that does is it rides the welt right through a channel and keeps the stitch nice and straight. So all I have to do is run it through properly. So I'm just going to take my fabric. Let me see over here. Take my fabric, fold it in half around my piece of welt rope. And that's all I really got to do is like keep that together. And then put it right up underneath the presser foot with the needle in the middle. And then come right back down here. Can you move that table out of the way? And then bring the camera closer. There we go. So I just need to be able to keep that fabric folded in half with the rope tight in the fold. And this will sew tight up against the rope every single time. Because that's the presser foot doing all the work. And we're just gonna sew these all so that they're all flat. And we're just gonna conjoin them at the end. And I think I can turn my sewing machine up because I'm only doing this one straight stitch, so I'm gonna make it go a little faster. That comes with confidence. I'm going to go to trace that pattern again. I'm going to do it with one singular piece of fabric. And that'll make it easier for me. Okay, I'm coming to the end where I have to join them together. And I'm not going to sew them together because that will actually make it really bulky where the seam is. I'm just going to cut my fabric. And if you tip your scissors just a little bit, I'm cutting this at a 45-degree angle. If I tip it a little bit, it'll put it on a bevel so that the leather end isn't as visible. And then I'm just going to put this around. And the reason why I'm doing it at a 45-degree angle, so that line where they come together is actually goes the length of the welt and not all just in one place. It's a little bit more inconspicuous. Make sure we get in there real tight as they come together. And whenever I stop sewing, I make sure that needle is down in the fabric. So I think for the sake of moving this along, I'm going to sew 3 of these together. Well, 2 of them, which I think are going to be wide enough for me to staple one of those seats. Because the smaller ones are only 80 inches around. Well, 2 of these might actually be okay because one of them is 70. So we're going to just stop this at 2 pieces and take it back so we can reupholster. But I'm going to sew the welt to the top of the arm piece while we're over here too. This time I'm going to cut this piece at the 45-degree angle because I noticed when I ran across it on the other side. Oh, did I already make 2? Oh, 2 is all I need. When I ran across it on the other side, lifted it up a little bit. So if I put this one overlapping, then it won't do that next time. Let's see these 2. Okay. So that's it for that. We're going to take this back to the table. Oh, wait. Let me do one of these tops. And then we'll go back to the table. So we're going to start this like on the inside because that's on the bottom and the most inconspicuous spot we can do. I'm going to cut the end at a 45-degree angle beveled first. And then I'm just going to run these together under the sewing machine at the same time. Because all you have to worry about is keeping these edges together. I'm going to leave a little bit at the top unsewn so that I can come back and overlap it. But from here, I'm just going to fold that welt into the fold real tight and then just sew it to the very edge. Because I measured this the way that I did, there's exactly a 1/2-inch seam allowance on the from the welt to the edge of this. So I don't have to worry about my seam allowance because that's built into the measuring aspect. But I am going to make some relief cuts for when we go around these curved edges so that that goes smooth. Now we are going to come back through here and sew the arm sides to it. So we'll be able to get tied up into that welt if we veer away in any way from here. But do try and just sew as tight into that rope as you can, especially if you've pre-sewed your welt before you sewed it to this, because you'll have a stick that you need to not be able to see when you come back through and sew again. And if you don't sew right on top of that stick or a little tighter than that, you're going to see it from the outside. Couple more relief cuts. A couple more to get around this corner. Now the relief cuts go in the welt part, not in the top of the arm part. It goes in the thing that's going around the corner, not in the actual corner itself. Here, I don't know what I- As long as you're keeping these edges together, you're going to hold that shape. And try not to pull and stretch the welt as you sew it, because it will come around looking like elastic on the other side. It's going to feel real easy to pull and stretch it as you put it through, because it helps keep it straight when it goes through the machine, but it will look like ripply and wrinkly as it comes out. And you'll wonder, how did my welt get so wiggly? And that is why. Don't stretch, just let it go through. And now we're coming back around to the other side, where we're going to overlap them. And this will get welt that goes around the bottom of the arm too. I think I'm going to use painter's tape to create the pattern for the side. I think that's going to be the easiest way to go about doing it. So here on the inside, we need it to overlap. You guys can't really see because the machine is in the way. Let's see if I can move this. No, still can't see. Oops, slamming into you there. So I'm going to cut the fabric so that it is a little longer. There, you can see on this side. I'm going to cut the fabric so it's a little longer than where the rope is. I'm going to cut the rope too. The next step is to cut the ropes so that they meet each other. So here, where that rope is, I'm going to cut it so that they butt into each other. And then where it comes together, that fabric just needs to overlap. So here, I'm going to cut the fabric down a little bit so it all fits underneath there. Align my fabric at the edges. The close call. And just keep going around the corner. Well, straighten that up when we get closer to it. I do want to make sure everything is fitting in there and getting covered. And you just land right back at where you started. And that's what we're working on. The welt gets sewn to the top first, and then those side panels that we're going to cut are going to get sewn to the side next after we upholster what's going on up there. We're going to attempt to remake that pattern again because I'm not happy with how it turned out the first time. So we're going to do that with some painter's tape. But for now, this is good. This will fit around that arm. And then we're going to cut out the side pieces to it after we make that pattern. So I'm going to get back over to the cutting table and show you how to reupholster one of those panels and put some welt on it. And then you will just repeat those steps for all 4 pieces that you got.
You want that high?
Yeah. So like straight here because Yeah.
Is it happening to the needle to the edge of this drum wall foot?
Half inch from the needle to like to where a half inch. So
Yeah, do you know if that's the edge of the wall?
oh no. There's like scratched into the plate though, and that's where the half inch is.
Oh, okay, good. Great.
You're welcome. Okay. One of these are bigger than the other. Okay, touch. We have a measuring tape. These are only like an inch different. This one is the bigger one. This one's a smaller one. We're just gonna work out a picture of one of these. We're just gonna see which one's bigger. Okay, this is the bigger one. Smaller, smaller, bigger. Okay, so we're gonna start off by upholstering this piece of leather to the top of this. The first thing I want to do is mark the centers. I'm going to fold this in half the long way, and I'm just going to put a little bit in that fold to cut out this up so you can see. It's just like a little notch right here, and sort of like a finger for where the center is. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. And then I'm going to do that in the short direction too. And then I'm going to mark the centers on the back side of this piece so that when I go to stretch it around, I can line up those centers and make sure that I have the same amount of material around all sides before I start glittering it with staples. Here. So now, from edge to edge, I'm going to find center 28, so center is 14. And I'm just overall putting that in the center instead of at the top. And then measure the center from top to bottom here. So this would be 5.5. So this is my center. I'm going to mark center closer down here too. And okay. So now I'm going to place the material on top, and you have to find yourself a nice smooth surface that doesn't have any pokey things or scratchy things. And then I'm going to put in the set. Now the first staples I want to do are always going to be center, 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 center. And that's because we want to stretch it out evenly across the surface before we start reloading the staples. But this is curved on the inside. So the first center staples that we have to do are right here in the center where it curves, so that we can catch that curve before we rob materials from one side to the next. So I'm going to bring up the center piece on this side first, and I'm going to do temporary staple. So instead of going flat all the way, I'm going to tip this down to the side a little bit, and I'm going to just put temporary staple. And I just remembered I need short staples for this. So if you could take some 3/8, but this is like really thin. So I need a short ones. Let me just feel these. Oh no, these are fine. These are 3/8 of little. The substrate is real thin, and I don't want my staples to blow through the other side and feel them through the foam. The next step is to stretch it from the center on the bottom, and here I'm really going to pull it and stretch it really tight. And I have a lot of excess on this side, so right away, because I want to have enough material to work with over here, I'm going to take that staple out and I'll bring a little bit more this way, so that I can have more stretch. I have purple tunnel in my hand, so it's difficult for me to hold my stretch. So I need to give myself as much material. Okay, so I'm leveraging my hands off of this part of the frame. I'm pulling it nice and taut. This is also a thin piece of substrate. If you pull too tight, it's going to bend it. And what it should look like at the front is just pulled really tight from center to center. These are just temporary staples for now. The next ones are going to come to the center this way. And these are just going to be temporary as well. Probably going to have to take them out to readjust or stretch at some point. And this one can go. We got way more extra material on this side. All right, starting over again. Center pieces are not lined up. And this is not a self-healing fabric. Once you put holes in it, they're there forever. So you want to be real careful that you don't put too many staples right away, so that you don't end up having to take them out. All right, I'm going to do that again. Center here. Nice big stretch in the front. Tight like a trampoline is what we're looking for. Same thing here on the sides. When you stretch out the sides, you should start to see this sort of straightening out. This is a good time to note that you should have short fingernails too, because your fingernails can scratch the surface of this leather. And I did trim my fingernails to the good of doing this. So now I just want to pull that, make that a nice good stretch. Give myself a center staple on that end. And do the same bit on this. We have a little bit of an imperfection on this side that we can't see from here. So I'm going to move it down just a little bit more. That's just an imperfection in the so it's not going to be centered, but we are working with a lot of extra material. So. I just want to make sure that that imperfection is going to find its way on that side. All right, try again. Center here. Stretch it real good from the center on this side. I'm in one stage. And I'm going to bring this center out here, and then we're going to go back to that one that we tied in first, and we're going to tighten it, because that actually is just saving us like from robbing that area too much material, but it still needs to be tightened. I'm going to take it one more time. They're nice and hot. And this is what we're working with now. It should look relatively like the same on all sides in the corners. Now we're going to work our way from the center out to make sure that we can pull all of these wrinkles out. So here, just a little bit from the center, I'm going to move down a couple more inches. Not a lot. These are all still temporary staples because potentially we're going to have to take them out to readjust as we go. But I'm going to put one there. Then I'm going to pull up and out in this direction. And I'm going to put one on this side. Now we're directly across from them. I'm going to come down to this side and do the same thing. I'm pulling up and out away from the center and over this way. Put a temporary staple there. Same thing. Now this side. Now we still have a lot of wrinkles from side to side. That's going to pull out when we pull at these sides here. But first we kind of got to get this like intercurved part locked down before we go to green. Okay. I've got the centers here done. Now we're going to come back through here to the sides and do these sides. And do the one with the blush line first. So I should be able to see this wrinkle come out. Carl, you want to put it on over there? Here we go. So when I pull this way, you're going to start to see these wrinkles come out. So from the center over, they're coming out. Side. There. Now we're going to do the same thing to the set down here. My hands sometimes have to stretch. Get a lot more of that out now. Now we can just keep working our way from the center out, seeing if we can get these wrinkles out along the way. Again, I'm pulling from the center out and up and over in this direction, all at the same time. So I'm going on this side, and we're going to come back over to this side. This one I think we do. There's a lot of back and forth in the staple removal process. Don't get discouraged. Remove more staples. At the top, you can see this is getting nice and smooth. But we still have a lot of this going on the bottom. I'm hoping when I get to the bottom here, we can bring that out. And of course, as we get to the corners, we're going to see a lot of that come out too. We just got to work our way through patience. So here, out and over. Temporary staple there. Starting to get smoother here. So we're directly across. Now I'm on the bottom side of it. Move this up. Over this way. We'll do the same thing on this side. Not visible. Okay, we're getting there. Starting to see a lot of those wrinkles come out. So now I'm going to try going from these edges. Actually, I can keep going across. So I'm going to come back into this corner. We want on this corner. Back over to this corner. We're going down to the bottom. Working directly across. So from this corner, and up and around. Look at that. Now we can start doing the sides, working our way from the center out in the same way. And the buttons are going to pull this down even tighter after. So now I'm going to go directly into the corners of all the sides. Look at that. I really straightened up like from here. I'm going to do one right in the corner, so I'll be pulling tight against this last staple here and against the staple that's in the middle. And essentially, I'm putting the staple up in the center between those staples. Right at the very corner. So that's smooth that out a lot. I'm going to go directly across from my corner down to this corner and do the same thing directly in the center between the flat staple and the staple here. This corner, and then we're going to do, right now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 staples on the top and 8 staples on the bottom, and that's all the staples you need to get it in the right position. So we're going to do these far corners now. Almost there. It's like magic. It happens. It all comes together. This last one. Okay. Now it's not 100% smooth, but we can go back to the center and work our way out and get everything that's pulled out all the way. See where we can tighten that up. Actually, you might be able to tighten that up right here. These two side ones. So that's all. Let's watch that. When the lines are straight up and down, you know you can pull them out from the side. So you can see from the center out here, I can get those to disappear right here from the side. Same thing to the other side. Probably get the rest of them out on this pole or the next few poles, like fill in the gaps. Wrinkles? No wrinkles. Now we can just keep going from the center out, filling in all the rest of the gaps of everything as we go, watching these poles, make sure we're getting all of the excess material extraction. Just gonna knock down a couple few at a time here so we can watch as we go and make sure that it's getting put in the right spot. And I also want to make sure so tight that they're not going to fit into the wood parts anymore. So this isn't the headrest, it's the middle part. Can you find that part of the wood over there? Here, stretch it across the corner. Is that the headrest? Oh, that makes sense. Now I want to make sure I haven't pulled it in like curved too far because it still has to fit. And this guy, hard to do with all the leather, so it is gonna work. Plus that's gonna stretch it down more too. Heck yeah. Okay. Oh, that's actually good.
Right.
How does it look?
Perfect.
Perfect. Don't with the recipe and service. Okay. Then everything is locked down as much as it can be. Now we can go fill in the gaps of the staples, which are going to go in every half inch next to each other. We might end up having to take some of these temporary staples out or hammer them down, but you guys can see. I'm trying to stretch out from the center staple up to this corner. And this is the best way to do that. And my staples angle because they're going to hold that material down nice and flat, about a half inch away from the edge. The welt is going to go on the edge, so we want to keep this edge clear so it can be as low profile as possible as it goes back into that chair. Now, as we come up around these corners, we want to avoid wrinkles if we can. So I'm probably going to have to make some relief cuts. I'm going to make some relief cuts right up the top of these humps where the fabric is folding on its own, but not all the way to the edge of the material. This stuff will be fully down underneath. So first, I want to get this corner perfect. That's the bit that I cut free. Again, yeah. That's your different.
So I have this.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot to do a box stitching.
So
Do
that's
I-
the centers of all the panels
Mhm.
of the sides as well as the top,
Mm-hmm.
because you're going to be lining them up.
Okay.
Center.
Center, the
So
center,
this
the center.
one.
Yeah, so they all say.
Yep.
And then I'm sewing. Oh, and then I'm sewing from the middle out to the edge, middle
Yeah.
out to the edge.
Yeah. But you'll probably, because I don't exact measurement, you can probably like go in the middle, go down to this. So go around the whole and go to the center. Like if you're starting in the center, go here, here, stop in the center. Then come back to the center, go here, here, stop in the center. And from here, go here, here, and you're right there, from here to here.
Okay.
I know that's getting perfect because I saw the last box. It had those measurements. So the measurements lend themselves well to being able to do that. If you wanted to like be like, oh, it's too big, you can go to the center, stop just before you get to the corner because you can make adjustments in the corner.
Okay.
If you need to.
Heck yeah.
Here you go. So I don't want anything closer than staples so that I can if they wrinkle a lot, it's gonna be behind it. And if it's behind that, you cut up that wrinkle so that it can lay flat on itself. So I made a cut up there so that this part can lay flat on itself. We want that to lay as flat as possible when it goes back into the frame so that it doesn't stick up and you don't see the sandwich that's clear everything. This bit to do. Another relief cut up to the edge. Okay, this come back so that those two wrinkles that won't show themselves are going to come back on the bottom side. This one can be fixed a little bit better. So after I staple this one, I'm going to put the welt. And then it'll be ready to go. Get put back in. Oh, we got to put back in. And we're going to get that one comes up. 139. And about 2 minutes to finish this up next week. And now I'm taking out stitches so that I can make up the difference because of all the wrinkles. Perfect. That whole side is perfect. And we're just going to work our way around every single corner. It's pretty slick. I've got chalk. Greatly shaded all over. And I'm taking out staples. I need to be careful to make sure the staples don't stay on the table. Because I move this like back and forth around. Because it can get stretched and we don't want it. Get around these corners first, and then you're going to go over. And I just got that corner is done. Corner is almost done. Just fold it. Cut up that fold. Start with the edge. So that on the back side, this could just lay down flat. Then I will trim this excess off first so that that top piece of it. cut. And I'm ready to take this later off this corner. I think we did it. Now we just gotta fill in the gaps between the long parts. So I'm just gonna pull that all the way around. My staples at an angle here because it covers more surface area. And it's gonna hold that down nice and flat. Come over on this side, do this side. And we're ready to cut out the excess. I am stretching in between the staples. Go back here and take the temporary staples that are sticking out. So they don't scratch anything up. Sometimes you can just hammer it down. I can just take. I'm just feeling pretty and sticking out. Looks good. Now I can cut off all the extra material. I just need about a ½ inch away from the staple to stick. So everything outside of a ½ inch next to the staple, that's just going to come in. You have a rotary cutter that could work for this. You just take the rotary cutter right away on top of the wood. Scissors, sharp scissors. Very sharp.
No, I did a bad thing.
Uh-oh.
Will I put the any width to the cushion depth? I thought
Just the seam. So if the cushion is 3 inches tall, it would be 4.
Yeah, we can do that.
Is there enough material?
There's not much. Are you doing a zipper? Sorry, what? Are you doing a zipper? No.
Use this.
It's the problem with each chair is small. They would have to fit in. So. Well, I get it.
Good squeeze. Okay. Look at her. Beautiful. Now we have to put the welt on the outside. Just make sure you got no staples, because the face is going to be dragging on the table this whole time. And then the long parts are the top, the pointy parts are the bottom. We're going to start this at the bottom. And this is going to get stapled on so that the rope is just to the outside edge of this. So it sticks out on the top and around the outside edges, because that's a kind of filling in a gap where the wood part goes on the chair. So I'm just gonna start this in the middle. That's undone. Can you zoom this in? Hold on, that's fine, I can move it. Just put this kind of in the center. Yeah, okay. So we stapled one bit down here. We left it a little bit open. So we're going to come back through and we're going to overlap that. And then come back around. So I'm just going to take this, stretch it. I really want to kind of like stretch it out so it creates a nice tight line. Down a couple of inches. In place. Then I can go back and fill in the gaps. Staple. This will prevent me from putting in too many staples right away and having to go back through. Again, just setting right on the outside edge. It's not on top. The rope is setting right on the outside edge. We're going to take this all the way around. To lift it up this way to see what I'm doing. Can you put on the main shot now? That staple was a little hot, but it didn't damage the top layer they got. Taking it all the way around. Here where it has to turn. Let's get our knees. And I'm really gonna find the top edge of that substrate, because that's where that's set. Holding tight to the staple line. Keep that line in the substrate. And not a staple.
Brown box.
Staple a couple of lines though. And bring that edge. You can see the trim from the front. That's what we want. You won't be able to see the trim from the front because you'll be able to see it on the lip. If you put it back too far, you're not going to be able to get it to see. Facing you when I do this is helping me to see exactly what it's going to look like from the front too. Good folds. Probably get all of the rest of the panels like this up to speed. And then we will do the arms, the armrests, and the buttons, and then we'll assemble it. Tuesday is sure will be done. This one's a little too high. Like the one that you blocked when we started, we're going to overlap that just like we did at the sewing machine when we were doing the armrest. You think where we start? This set is just repeated 3 more times. This is been over here, so we can stay for the long. And then this new piece is going to set right inside that old fabric. And it's going to come together right. And that's where the seam is at the bottom, which you should be able to see. Now let's take a look at how that sets in the wood. We have the wood base for this piece. Can you bring me this piece back? I just want to see how it fits. The wood piece for this one. So you can get through one of these. You can get through all of them. This is wood. Make sure scratching it up. Set this down inside. And press down all the way. We're feeding all that way. Oh my God. So pretty. Let's see, can you do the overhead shot? Look at that. That's how that's gonna fit in there. Now, I think that's gonna go across. That pretty. Okay, we did it. It's 2 o'clock. We reupholstered this Eames chair. We're gonna finish it up next week when we do the arm pattern. Sew that together, apply that to the arms. We're gonna do the buttons on all these before we attach them to the seat. And then we're gonna assemble the chair, and then it's gonna be done. I do have some vinyl I need to replace on the legs. It has some vinyl stickering on there I gotta replace. But that's about it. That's that. It goes today. If you want to learn upholstery from me, I teach classes over Zoom. I teach them in person. I teach them 7 days a week. I also have a Zoom subscription. It's just $5 a month and all-inclusive upholstery retreats where you can come out here and include your stay, your meals, your materials, your project if you want to, and you can bring a friend free. So if you have nothing better to do, you want to learn a little bit about upholstery and furniture restoration, join me here on Tuesdays. Join me over Zoom any day of the week, or join me here in my studio. We'll see you there. Good job.